Welcome to Node Mode. That's right, Pio is no longer my daddy. He's letting me do my very own introduction. I'm Depeche Node, here with my beautiful co-host Pio, and you are listening to the NFT podcast focused on digital art. We talk with artists, OG collectors, and some of the smartest people in the space about all things NFTs. We are, in fact, in it for the art. As always, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, so make sure to always do your own research. If you enjoy the content, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, share the video with your friends. I'd love to keep being able to do Node Mode. Check out our NFT, the Nifty Portal, get access to our community. Come along for the ride. I own 50 of those things, so it better go somewhere. Our guest today is Nucci, host of another NFT podcast called The Nucci Show. Definitely check it out. Nucci is a member of several prominent NFT collectives. We'll dive into those. He also works full-time for Premint as the GM over their collector pass. So he knows a thing or two about NFT infrastructure and what it's actually like to work in Web3. Nucci, welcome to the show.
Node, thank you guys for having me. Huge fan. Power intro. Really, I'm very proud to be the inaugural Node intro guest. It's a very big deal for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and we'll try not to make fun of you too much. You know, we almost convinced him, guys, to go live with video, but he was just still a little bit shy. So we're going to try not to push too hard on you, man.
All right, appreciate that. I actually just found a video of me online with like a giant name tag at an event, and it shows up for like 1 second, I'm like, oh, that's me with a giant Nucci name tag. But I think that's the only place you can find me at the moment.
So if you really want to be a sleuther, you can go that direction, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll dive on beyond that. Okay. First, I want to hear a little bit about like what it's like to actually work at a Web3 company that has found product market fit. You know, imagine that. There's not that many out there. So tell us a little bit about like your role at Premint and, you know, kind of how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. How I ended up where I am, I'll start there real quick. I'll give like a really quick history. Got into Bitcoin in 2013. Have always been super into crypto, always as kind of a passive observer. And then rode the waves through all the bear markets and the crypto winners and all the bull markets and all that fun. And then really dove into to NFTs when I hopped into the Proof Collective earlier this year. Met Brendan in the Proof Collective, had him on my podcast to discuss the Collector Pass. I helped him launch the Collector Pass. And then at that point, I was still working in consulting. We'd been chatting a bunch. I've been really wanting to make the full-time hop to Web3. He was like, I have this Collector Pass. It's awesome. We're trying to drive more value to people. Can you come on and do that? So that's what I initially joined to do. And yeah, if you have a Collector Pass, you have access to the allow lists. You can see what's trending. You have like exclusive allow lists just for the Collector Pass holders. You have a calendar, you have an inbox, you've got special discounts. You get early access to stuff like I haven't even announced this anywhere, but we're giving everyone DECA access this week. Gallery SO gave us early access. So lots of great benefits. And my job was to go dig up those benefits and help just drive more value. Since then, I'm also helping with like initiatives across the Web3 space. So for example, we have Vulcan, which is a new Discord login, like authentication scheme. And basically, I don't know if you guys have used it yet, but it's like a one-click. You click the button and it just basically brings you into your Discord. So there's no DMs, no links, nothing like that. But yeah, working. Nice. Yeah, it's really sweet. And yeah, so working for Web3 is awesome. I have days where I'm like just super excited to be in this, and I'm chatting with people and meeting with founders and chatting with project founders and all that stuff, and it's a blast. And then there's some days where like obviously we're in a bear market, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like, what is going on in Web3? Like there's been days where there's just like crickets in the space. But yeah, in general, it's a blast, and it's a privilege to get to work in Web3 full time.
Yeah, for sure. I always laugh at myself. I'm like, for whatever reason, I started getting more involved, like actively in the bear market in terms of like just trying to grow my presence and brand. I'm like, I should have done this a year ago, you know, when there was like 1 million people joining, and now it's like we got like the same 1,000 people every morning on the NFT morning show. They love us though, dude. They love Node Mode. There's about 5 of you here. Thank you all for coming. No, but it's good. I imagine there's a lot of people out there that want to like get more involved, you know, and get jobs, right? What would be like your advice? To me, it sounds like you're kind of doing it the way that I think most people should, which is, hey, just get out there, provide some value, right? Like, and you get asked to do things, right? Like that's kind of what happened with me and Pio is I hopped on the show one day and then just kept providing value. Is that kind of like what you think as a great way for people to get more involved or find work in the space?
100%. It's like my biggest regret was not contributing in the Bitcoin space earlier and like in crypto in general earlier. I think part of the problem with Bitcoin is like it feels very closed off in Bitcoin. And like if you say the wrong thing, you're executed. Like literally, if you're a Bitcoiner and you talk about NFTs, like see you later. You'll never, you will be, your house might burn down. Like it is, they're very
look at Pio, dude. He had to move. He had to move to New York, man.
Yeah, that's right. You were a bit of a Bitcoiner, right?
I'm definitely a Bitcoiner. I don't have weird, unhealthy perspectives on what collectibles are compared to money. I don't think that like a Babe Ruth card is the same thing as like a bar of gold or $100 bill. And sometimes I feel that the Bitcoiners might literally think they're saying, you know, digital pictures of like, you know, monkeys or digital artwork is the same thing as money, which is what I'm confused about. But I'm also seeing a big shift in a lot of notable Bitcoiners like Nick Carter and other big time Bitcoiners that are just kind of like having a more like, I mean, not that guy was ever really toxic, but just a more realistic view on Bitcoin.
Yeah, there was an episode of, I don't know if you listen to Peter McCormick's podcast, What Bitcoin Did.
I used to listen to it a lot. I don't listen to it as much anymore.
Same. But so he had Willy Woo on, who was like one of the founding fathers of
On-chain analyst. Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, truly, he's the best. If you don't follow Willy Woo, I mean, the three greats, in my opinion, are Willy Woo, Plan B,
Will Clemente,
and yeah. Exactly.
Oh gosh, this podcast is going in the wrong direction. I'll try and keep my mouth shut. Continue.
Yeah, you were like, how do people get in the NFT space? I'm like, great. Let me talk about Bitcoin for the next hour. No, but those guys are all great. But it was interesting hearing Peter and Willie talk about how they didn't know how to talk about, like, they think things that are interesting on Ethereum like are going on, and they want to talk about them, but they don't know how to without people just scorch thing, you know, their podcast. So anyways,
a big part of that real quick, Nucci, is the fact that stable coins are largely on Ethereum, and both of them, I've heard Peter McCormick talk about it before. It's hard to argue against stable coins, amigo. You know what I mean? It's like, go pick another fight. Like stable coins is a pretty decent like thing, you know? So until there's a widely used stable coin built on Bitcoin, then the Bitcoin maxis have to like, you know, they got to deal with that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Even Michael Saylor, part of his overall thesis involved the USDC or some dollar stablecoin becoming, you know, the major currency of the world. And I think it is also interesting to note, Gavin Andreessen, who was the original Bitcoin core developer, has this essay out about how he sees a future where the Bitcoin network dies, essentially, like the Bitcoin miners die, but all of the Bitcoin is moved to Ethereum and is wrapped. And the idea is basically like, as more people wrap Bitcoin, which I think like over 100,000 are wrapped. I don't know the exact number. I'd have to look at Coin Market Cap. But as more Bitcoin gets wrapped, the network, there's obviously like less security needed for that network, and it would slowly move all over. So it's like an interesting like thought experiment if all the Bitcoin would move to the Ethereum network. But completely agree with you on the stablecoin point. And just to roll it back to the initial question, how do people get into this space? Sorry for the aside there. But yeah, I think the best things you can do is like work to your, like, what are you good at, right? And I liked writing and I like speaking. So I started a podcast on NFTs and just brought on anyone I could meet from the Proof Collective, or I would just DM people. And then the other thing I would do is I would write, and I really enjoyed writing and like finding topics that just I could like fall down a rabbit hole. So like one of my favorite essays I wrote was on XCOPY. It's my pinned tweet right now. And I just like disappeared for 3 weeks and looked through his Tumblr and looked through everything he had done and tried to learn as much about this guy, this mysterious, you know, artist as I could. I found like tons of crazy stuff on the guy, but it was really interesting. I put that out, and like that essay has paid dividends over the past year since it came out. And like I still get DMs where people are like, "Hey, would you mind writing an essay about this?" Or, "Hey, I like what you did there. Do you want to talk about that?" And like if you put things out that are evergreen and people can reference back forever, and they're really high quality, people will find them and they'll reach out to you, and you'll your network will grow. And in this space, I think, I'm sure you guys both agree, like your network and the people you meet and the relationships you build are the most important thing. And you always want to be obviously building long-term relationships. Like you don't really want a short-term mindset, like build great relationships and just give more than you take, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk, that's amazing advice. Like for sure. I think that's one of the reasons why why Pio even invited me to hop on the show, is because he had read some of my work before. So I'm kind of in a similar boat. But okay, you talked about XCOPY in your essay. I got to hear, since I haven't read it, what are like 3 to 5 like small or interesting things that you learned about XCOPY while we're on the subject?
Oh yeah. Okay. So good question. So he's been posting on Tumblr for like a decade. Some people don't know that, since like
I did not know that.
Yeah. So you can go back, and he was making this art for like literally 10 years. And if you go through, I actually looked really close at it. And he actually posted for 116 months straight, and he only missed 1 month. So like he really, really enjoys like what he does, which is really interesting to me. Like to go a decade without a payday is like incredible. He was one of the first people to like sell stuff online, like sell NFTs. And I like, one of his quotes is, "Today I sold my first gift for £1. Nothing can stop us, Tumblr," was one of his quotes. And I just think that's crazy that like he was soliciting people like, "Please buy this for £1. Like I will literally take $1 for a one of one." And now his one of ones are obviously like millions. And the crazy thing is, it's not like these came out like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Like these came out like 3 or 4 years ago, and they were put on the blockchain. Another really crazy one is that there's a very early NFT collection called Curio Cards. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one of the first times I ever heard about NFTs. I was at a Bitcoin meetup in San Francisco in 2016, and Mad Bitcoins was there, who's like an OG like Bitcoin streamer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to start this NFT project called Curio Cards," and explained it to me. And I remember at the time being like, telling my buddy, I was like, "We should probably get into that. Like everything that guy does seems to do pretty well. Kind of wish I'd gotten into that earlier." And I like completely ignored it. I forgot about it. And I think a full set of those Curio Cards sold at Sotheby's for definitely over 7 figures. I can't remember exactly how many.
Yeah, that was last year, late summer. That was like the top for those historical NFTs. Maybe it was early fall last year, 2021. Curio Cards, Rare Pepes, some others really had their moment.
Peak Leonidas moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But so I think the most interesting thing, though, is that he got rejected from that collection. So he submitted his work.
Really?
And
Mad Bitcoins? Leonidas.
No, he's saying XCOPY got rejected from being put into the collection.
Yeah. XCOPY got rejected from being in Curio Cards, which I think is hysterical retrospectively. And I'm looking at the tweet right now. It says, "A few years ago, I submitted this to my Curio Cards," which he tags, which I think is really funny, but never made the cut.
Some Michael Jordan level resentment there, still having a chip on your shoulder about it.
Yeah, totally. And then he does some art by hand. Like I found some sketches he did way back when. And I also found somebody who like got a print from XCOPY, like a physical. It's the only known physical I can see. And I found a photo of the person they took a photo of it on their wall, and you can see it behind their desk. And it was like 7 years ago. And I spent like 3 months trying to get in touch with this person to just be like, "How much do you want for that physical XCOPY?" Because X even replied to the guy, he's like, "Yeah, no one else bought the rest, so I burned them to make yours like even more rare."
Wow.
So, like,
damn. Somewhere
there's a person with the only physical XCOPY on their wall over their desk, and they have no clue.
It's insane.
Do you think they really don't have a clue? Like that they don't know about NFTs at all?
I kind of doubt it, because like it was just a random guy on Tumblr, right? You bought some art on Tumblr, and the idea that you would continue to track this one person on Tumblr that you bought a print from, it seems like a stretch that they would know. And from all of me trying to reach out to them, it doesn't seem like they're very active or have any clue. But maybe they know, but I don't know. If they knew too, if I knew I had an XCOPY, I'd probably be like flaunting it or trying to get somebody to buy it. So I don't know. I think it's either been destroyed or it's still sitting on the wall. It's kind of crazy though.
That's an insane background that you just gave on XCOPY, Nucci. So I'm actually, glad that you came on the show. I was a little bit, I was wondering whether, no, I'm just kidding. It was jazzed up to have you, but you've already knocked it out of the park. Since we're talking about XCOPY, I've been basically waiting for a Node Mode show to disclose my new perspectives that I have on XCOPY, which is...
Oh, let's go.
So I said before that I thought that XCOPY is like basically the most important or one of the most important artists in the NFT space because he's digitally native. Was, like as an artist, clearly like his medium is digital. I'm sure I'd love to see that sketch. If you have that sketch, Nucci, I'd love to see that, whether or not it's on the show or at a later date, because I'd be so curious. And I was talking about how original he is. And then people were saying to me, but what about the Basquiat influence? What about the Basquiat influence? And at first I actually wrote it off because I was like, well, just because you do skulls doesn't automatically mean that you're referencing Basquiat. But then when you look closer, so like right here, this is a direct Basquiat reference with the bone and skin. A big part of Basquiat's work is, or a big like kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? One of like the things that he does. I forget. Like I'm blanking on. I sound very uneducated right now when I'm talking about this. But basically, Basquiat writes and puts body parts and organs, like human anatomy, words that correspond to human anatomy, into his work. Like nobody really knows why. Didn't really talk about it. And so that's a direct reference right there. And then there's at least one piece. For me to find the exact one would be tough. But XCOPY's got a bunch of Basquiat crowns in the piece, and he's got them like upside down. And the way that I like interpreted it was like, he's like, XCOPY is so advanced that this is big Basquiat influence right here too, with the bones. That's big time Basquiat influence. And I think XCOPY's touches like the eyeballs, because you see the eyeballs in a lot of XCOPY's work. And that's a body part, but that's not a body part that you see in Basquiat's work. I can't think of one piece of Basquiat's work that has eyeballs. And look at how present the eyeballs are on XCOPY. But anyway, that one piece that had the crowns in it, I want to find the exact one. I'll try to find it while you guys are continuing to talk, and we can come back to it. But it's almost like, he's like such a master. It's not this one, but it's close. He's such a master that he's like, yeah, that's my influence, but I went so deep. I'm like just playing games with the influence at this point. It's like Jay Dilla as a hip hop producer. It's like, he learned from all the greats and he sampled these songs, but the way he spins it is so deeply original in its own way. I like kind of went from thinking XCOPY was the most original, having a quick moment of pause, being like, shit, he is majorly influenced by Basquiat, and then just going all the way up and being like, shit, it's even more than I thought before, like how good he actually is. So that was a long rant on XCOPY. I don't know if people are tuning out, but I just wanted to give you my full take on it.
Dude, that's great. I love that too. And it's like, yeah, when an artist can, it's like he's giving the nods to him, right? And he's so confident in his work, right? And that it stands on its own enough that it doesn't feel like it's any less original, right? It feels even better for whatever reason. So.
Exactly. I saw this one at the Super Rare Gallery in Soho, which, by the way, is still just chilling in Soho. I've gone by it like 2 or 3 times in the past couple of weeks, which is so sick. It just like hits you and it's like, yeah, I mean, dude, this is like here to stay. Like in the heart of Soho, there's a big ass glass, like retail storefront where it just says Super Rare in big letters, and you walk in and it's all digital screens. I saw this on a 16 by 16 screen in there right when you walk in, and it's just like, damn, that thing like slaps. Like bring somebody that likes going to museums to see this, and I feel like it'll have an impact.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love it. I see Micah G in the comments. Nucci is like, hey, thanks for inspiring about 80 people to go on this like witch hunt for that physical, dude. So you talk about wanting to be anonymous. That guy's going to be less and less anonymous as the days go by, man.
Oh man. Well, at least I didn't post. You're gonna have to dig through like 2,000 posts on his Tumblr. But I like completely agree with the Basquiat stuff. But I I don't know. I feel like every artist draws inspiration from somewhere, and nothing at this point is like feels completely original. I'm pretty sure you can draw a line to like something that someone saw, but I do think like when I first saw XCOPY, I'd never seen anything like it. Like the glitch art, it was like this like seizure inducing, like just like very in your face. Oh, that one's so good. The prisoner one. Just looking at what you're going through. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. And like to what you said, there's this other artist I found called Zenoias, and I posted a link in the private chat for you, Node, if you want to pull it up. But like his stuff is obviously, or their stuff, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, very clearly inspired by XCOPY, but also like very, very good in my opinion. And I gave you one of the pieces I really like. And if you open it up, like if you make it big, you can actually see in like the top right, there is like almost like a cathedral type thing behind it, and the spinning skull. And I just think like even if you'd shown me this, I would have been like, oh, it's XCOPY, like 100%. And then it turns out to not be XCOPY, but it's like I think it's very, very good, even though it's clearly inspired XCOPY. And this is an up and coming artist. Like I do think there's gonna be a lot of glitch artists that do really well. I think XCOPY stuff is going. He's like, as I said in the essay, I call him a founding father because I think he is a founding father of NFTs, and like his stuff will forever be like cemented in the history books of our culture. But I do think there's like other people that are going to draw inspiration from XCOPY and make incredible art. And I think this is probably one of those artists who's just starting to kind of poke their head up.
1,000%. And of course, every single artist in every medium is inspired by other people. My thing is in the NFT space, you see people that are just like straight up copying other artists. Like they're just saying like, here, I'm doing Picasso work now. And that's like where it doesn't really make sense. Like you see it in music a lot where like a new hip hop act like Migos comes out, right? And then a bunch of people try to copy Migos, but like you don't, maybe there's like one hit wonder out of that group, but everyone's just kind of like, well, we already have Migos. We don't necessarily need this new guy doing that style of hip hop. And so I just get concerned that a lot of artists in the NFT space aren't actually being original. Look, I can just go and start making my version of, XCOPY or my version of Jackson Pollock. But I don't think that the market should reward that. And I don't whether or not someone likes it and thinks it's good, the hardest thing in art is being original. It's just the hardest thing. And artists of decades past and centuries past, they were all like the thing was to figure out how to be original and have it be good and like make something new. Like that was the thing. And those are the artists that are remembered. And I do believe that XCOPY fully embodies that. It's like how Tarantino's inspired by, insert list of directors here, and he references them and gives them all the credit in the world and says there would be no Tarantino, without, so-and-so. He's got a laundry list of directors that he's a huge fan of. But at the end of the day, Tarantino's Tarantino, and other people might try to copy Tarantino, but he's the one that's doing it in an original way.
Yeah, I think like Bad Times. I don't know if you saw Bad Times at the El Royale, like very, very Tarantino inspired movie. I enjoyed it, but like it didn't totally hit the mark. I think you're totally right. There's stuff that just feels like a total rip. I feel like Keith Haring probably falls in that category in a big way. I also you mentioned Pollock, and obviously the new GM Dao drop. We can chat about that for a second if you guys want. Because
let's do it.
I've been debating it with like the great thing about Proof Collective is like you can find someone really strong from like everybody, like every discipline within NFTs. So I've been like chatting to my like generative art nerds over there, and like people are a little torn because it's obviously Pollock inspired drip art. On the other hand, this guy has a PhD in with a thesis in digital matte painting, right? Like what he did here is not easy to do generatively. And it looks like a real drip painting. And that's kind of amazing to be able to do that with generative art. And there's like, obviously like a lot of different, like, and if you really zoom, you can actually see the texture of the canvas. Like he went to that level of detail. Some of the paint actually looks 3D. And the paint drips from mint to mint. There's like a lot of interesting subtleties. It's actually the code would change with each mint and the paint droppings would get more violent as the mint continued. So there were a lot of firsts with this drop. And while it's super Pollock inspired, I think that's the one thing that's like pulling a lot of people back. Like, is this too much of a Jackson Pollock. But on the other hand, no one's been able to do this to this degree. And to be the first generative artist to do like drip painting at this high of a level, I think is very impressive. But on the other hand, like there's no negating the fact that this is obviously inspired by Pollock. But to me, while inspired, it's still he's the first person to be able to do it. Like a lot of people have tried this and it just hasn't worked. And I mean, I think it came out really, really well for what he was trying to do.
Node, we talked about this morning.
Yeah, it's similar.
You're not going to offend me. You're not going to offend me at all.
Nucci, you just said, no, did Nucci not basically just say the same thing that I said this morning?
Yeah, it's like exactly. I think the only difference is that Nucci is valuing kind of the innovation side more, and you were like, and I'm kind of maybe leaning slightly more on your side, Pio, of like, okay, well, at the end of the day, I mean, inspired is one word, and then it's like, okay, it's like exactly like a Pollock, right? Like it's just, I don't know how that's what's so hard to say, right? Like what is inspiration versus what is original? We keep going back and forth on that. But I don't disagree. I think it's really well done. I think it's great art. It looks good, and it's an incredible like feat from a generative art kind of perspective. And so maybe that, like for me, that's where the value I think should lie, I guess, is my take.
Yeah, my thing is like, okay, cool. So look, again, what I said this morning is I understand that it's a technical accomplishment to do generative art this way, but the result on the other end is the art. And here we are, we're looking at the art. I'm not throwing shade at Dario. I didn't know he had a PhD. I can't say I'm surprised because this is an incredibly impressive technical feat. But someone from the traditional art world is going to immediately say that this is like, just fully trying to do Jackson Pollock, like 1,000%. And again, it's good art and it works. It's just not original in the sense that it's literally like Pollock did this 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Like he did this like 70, 80 years ago. That it was a huge deal then and has been since then. And that's why he's basically regarded as the best American painter like ever. And so my thing is like the art has to be original. But at the same time, like the traditional art world actually does like being original every time is not totally a rule in the original art world. You see like modern Picasso looking stuff. You see all sorts of, different things that aren't totally original, but I don't think you're going to onboard that many people from outside our space just for telling them this was made with a computer. People are going to be like, all right, cool. Well, he also could have made it with Payne. I would have said the same thing.
I think those are all very valid points. I think we're all on the same page here.
Yep.
I do think there's something like kind of cool about being able to put this on your wall. And when someone asks about it, you can say, oh, no, that was actually like completely generative and tell that story. But like, I agree with you guys basically across the board on this. I do think like GM Dao as a product and GM Studio is a very interesting project. If you guys want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like I'm currently in like my next essay, which I've been working on for a few weeks and I haven't written one in a few months. Maybe actually, I don't know if I've written one since I had a baby, which was 7 months ago. I've been in a essay lull, but the new one is basically about NFTs that let you mint more NFTs, like NFTs that pay dividends. So like Goda, GM Dao, Proof Collective, there's like 18 of them I've found so far. One of the things I love about GM Dao and GM Studio is that there's no expiration date. Same with Goda. And I really like the ones where these will basically keep producing mints for you for the rest of time. And one of the things I really like about GM Dao, and one of the things I think could make it a really big deal, is the blind curation process. And
that's cool.
Yeah, the curators have no idea what they're looking at. And what's cool about that, in my opinion, is like, could Hobbs get accepted? Could Cherniak get accepted? And Cypher actually said they had a big name artist come on, and it would have been great for the product, but they still didn't tell the curation panel, and they got turned down. And I think it's which is crazy, but like it could become this thing where it's like, yeah, you did Fidenzas. Can you do it? Can you do something again that would get picked by like a bunch of and the curators are like, one of them is an Art Blocks curated artist. One of them is a coder for NASA. Like they're very legit curation panel, and they can see right through the, like if you're, it's crazy. Somebody posted one, you got to read what the curation panel does in the Discord. Somebody posted a new drop like from an artist, and one of the guys from Art Blocks immediately recognized the algorithm and was like, this is basically a complete rip of this artist. And they let the artist come back and give their point of view and why it wasn't. But at the end of the day, it was decided it was too close. So I think that's an interesting idea that like you could, could these greats come back? Are they one-hit wonders, or could they get through a blind curation process? So anyways, and I love the fact that it doesn't expire and that the DAO is working on other products adjacent to this. So I think it's definitely, I like full disclosure, I own these things and I think it's an awesome product and the community's smart and I like hanging out there. So it's something I'm keeping my eye on very closely.
Those artists are going to take it as a challenge and they're going to put out work under aliases and stuff. And then, years later, they're going to disclose it was me, it was me.
We had, I just had this debate with someone, that Zenoias guy. I sent you guys the thing. I was like, what if XCOPY started doing art under this name Zenoias and like this was really XCOPY? And he's just like, yeah, I just wanted to get art out into the public again at a reasonable price. And then he reveals it later and a bunch of people hit the lottery. And the only reason, I don't think that's a real thing, but the only reason I think that is like, if you go deep in his Twitter, XCOPY's, he is, I don't want to use the word social justice warrior. That's obviously not the right term, but like he's very, very passionate about social issues. And whether it's like water or world hunger or all those things, like he's very clearly there was, and he's deleted a lot of the tweets, but like he was very, very, vocal about those things. If you go back into the past few years. So not that I think that Zenoias is XCOPY, but it's an interesting conspiracy theory.
Look at this tweet. No.
Shout out. Look at that. How did you find that? Dude, Pio is a master. He can like do 7 things at once during the show, including operate the screen, right? Like the screen shares. And meanwhile, I'm just like focused on the convo and I cannot do more than one thing at once. And he's pulling up. This tweet just came in, right? Like
it just came in. Someone just sent this to me and I was listening to you the whole time, Nucci. I just, oopsies. I've just been around the block with these, streams. I mean, are we down to have him on?
Oh, absolutely, dude. I think we totally should. We'll get Cypher, you are invited. We'll get you on the show.
That's a live invite. Cypher stealing Nucci's thunder. We're thinking that Nucci's going to walk away from this feeling slighted.
So I had Cypher on my show, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks
he's
ago.
like, I've already been there, done that. By the way, so envy.
Yeah, you're welcome to have my scraps. No, I'm kidding. Cypher, I want to say Cypher is amazing and you guys should absolutely have him on. And I learned a lot in that episode. And one of the things I learned is like, they basically built this product to fix the problems that Art Blocks has and other generative platforms. And there's like, they basically went to artists and were like, what don't you like about Art Blocks? What was the problem with getting in? All those things. And they're trying to solve those problems. So I think it is really interesting. And Cypher, if you guys don't know the story, like he just tweeted GM every day for like 100 days. And if you responded GM, he would give you one of these tokens. And then they were getting botted. So I'm chuckling because like Freeman's having this whole bot thing and it's a whole nother story. But so he started putting like math equations you had to solve and all sorts of tough problems. But it's an interesting origin story. It's an interesting project. We'll see how it continues to pan out. Like I hold several of these and I don't really have any intention of selling at the moment because like I said, I really like, I'm writing this essay on like all these mint passes and the ones that don't expire. It's just like, okay, like, so in 10 years, you're still going to be giving me stuff. It's like this endless dividend you get. Some of these expire in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And like, those are great, but some just go on forever. And this is one of them.
That's interesting. Isn't proof expires, right? After 3 years?
Proof does expire after 3 years. And I think there's actually like a bit of a play there, in the sense that like, I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but I also don't really see Kevin winding it down and being like, all right, guys, this was a fun 3 years, packing it up. See you later. Like it's all Moonbirds and oddities now. Like I do see some sort of continuation, whether it's an expansion of the original community to another 250 or 500 people, whether he just removes the expiration date, whether he allows you to mint at the original price you minted, or if you were like, maybe if you're someone who held the entire time, you can, which would be hard to figure out, but you can mint at the price you mint, like something like that. Like I do think it's going to continue, but I also think there's going to come a time where the price is going to drop significantly because there's going to be a little bit of fear and because they haven't addressed what's going to happen at the end of that 3 years. And I think that could be a huge buying opportunity if proof is something, even right now, I think proof's a pretty good buying opportunity. I admittedly sold one of my passes recently. During future proof it sold actually.
Oh,
but
dang.
I have
these were 45 like a couple days ago. So that's already, I mean, I guess when it's this high, the price is going to fluctuate a lot on the floor. But yeah, I think like they're going to reward proof holders for the next, the next proof collective 2. I bet what they do is, they do one of two things. Either they just airdrop them all more proof passes and they expand it a little bit. I could totally see them doing that, right? Where they go from 1,000 to 2,000 or 3,000 and expand the collection and then just airdrop, another pass to them, or let them just mint it, right? They get allow listed to mint it for 1 ETH or something and then, call it good.
Yeah, they have a ton of options they can explore. But the idea that I know people were like, they haven't addressed it. He has sort of addressed it, and he's brainstormed in the Discord publicly some ideas and had the community give feedback. But like, there's no doubt in my mind there will be a continuation and the holders will be rewarded. And there's also no doubt in my mind there will come a point where people will be freaking out about the expiration date and it won't have been announced yet. Or maybe he'll get ahead of that. But if he doesn't, there could be a really good buying opportunity there. I'd love to know, I know you're looking at it right now and you were saying it's at 56. I'd love to know what the last like 5 or 10 sales were, because oftentimes it's at 56, but the last ones were like offers in the 40s that were getting accepted. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
someone sniped one for 42. That's pretty good.
That's pretty. Tin Bane sold. It's funny when you see people sell them. You're like, oh, that guy, he's out.
Is there a 10% royalty on this?
It's 7.5 with 2.5.
So 10.
It's a 10 total. Yeah, which is steep, especially like 10 doesn't feel that bad when it's like a 1 ETH sale, but when it's like a 60 ETH sale and 60 ETH are gone, you're like, ooh, like that. I felt that.
If you buy at 42, you break even selling at 47.
Yeah. Maths.
Good,
nice job.
Good math. Yeah. This was, so proof was like my intro into NFTs for sure. Like I'd been in crypto, like completely into crypto for like almost 10 years now, like obsessed, but I could not find the front door of the NFT party. Like it was in my Twitter. The Bored Apes were inescapable. Everyone was having fun except for Nucci. And I just like could not. I felt like I was like trying to like open the window to the party. The windows were locked, and I could hear everyone inside having fun and making money and wearing cool hoodies. And I was just like outside. And then I heard about proof on the Kevin Rose podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, like I knew Kevin Rose really well for many years from the like being on Tim Ferriss and Dig and all that, and it just seemed like I was like, yeah, I'll happily pay this guy a few ETH to show me how to. It reminded me. Have you guys ever been to Berlin by any chance?
Nope.
I actually haven't either.
All right. So in Berlin, like to get into a club there, you have to basically dress in like dark clothes and look a little sad. Like if you look, Pio, you're actually like kind of dressed okay for it.
I wear black every day, dude. I should totally get in.
Yeah. With the mustache, you look very hip. But like I was going in with like just normal, like red shoes on, and they would like, you have no chance. There's a guy named Sven. If you type in Sven Bouncer, there's this really famous nightclub that has like a 4-day party, and it starts on Friday and it doesn't end till Monday. And there's a really famous bouncer there named Sven. I don't know what his last name is, but
it's a great name.
You should actually Google this. He's fast. The way he looks is just amazing. Like if you're sharing your screen. But anyway, so he's very intimidating, but like it's very much like certain people get in and certain people don't. And that's like across Berlin. And I remember going into a party, like, we heard a party, we knocked on the door. My wife speaks German. And I was like, all right, you can do the talk and we're going to get in. And the guy who opened the door looked like the guy who's like speeding in Super Troopers, if you know that reference. And he basically looked at us and like, he had like these big crazy sunglasses on. He just looked so cool. And he was like, just shut the door. Like he didn't even speak to us, just shut the door. And I was like, that's how I felt about NFTs for the longest time. Like it was a party that I just like couldn't finagle my way into. And then proof finally, like I felt like I found my footing there and met a lot of good people and kind of went from there.
It's a pretty good network to join. Way to hit it out of the park with proof. So you bought 2 of them. You sold 1 in the 50s.
I bought 3 of them, and I sold one at 64.9 recently.
And you still have two?
I still have two. Yeah.
Congrats.
Super lucky. But yeah, it was like, I didn't sell one because I like believe in the ecosystem any less than I did yesterday or anything. It just, a lot of my net worth was moving very quickly on an announcement about like fanny packs, for example. And like, as much, I literally love Proof. I love the founders. I love it. I think they're the best. Like one of the best teams operating right now, like hands down. I don't think that's really disputable. But it went from a very small part of my net worth to all of a sudden like a very large part, and I was like, I'm feeling like a little overexposed at this point. And it's kind of nice to have a pile of ETH to like, in the bear market to be able to make some moves in.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts on, we got Moonbirds pulled up here. They dipped down to single digits. I don't know if they're still the lowest one still there. Oh yeah. What do you think?
Do I buy this right now, Nucci? What are we doing?
Yeah, are these underpriced? I've got an offer in, I think, on that one down below, PO, the captain. Oh no, it's not there anymore. Maybe it went away, or maybe I bought it. I don't know. I'll have to check.
This you?
No, it was
no. Is this you?
Looks just like me, man.
Who
A
the
guy
hell
with a
is this
suit,
guy?
dude. What? Yeah, why are you? Oh well,
Look at this Proof bowl right here. This guy just loves Kevin Rose.
Oddities, dude. Look at that. Oh, he's got a
Grail.
That's a Grail right there. Yeah.
That's
Emily
funny.
Z. I'd take that one any day. Okay, sorry. Your thoughts, Nucci, on the birds?
Yeah. I'm not. Again, everyone is in a different position here. I have a bunch of birds because I obviously had the Proof passes. I'm not buying here. I honestly, I feel like the Proof community is going to crucify me for this, but like, it wouldn't surprise me if these started trading in parity with like CloneX and Doodles, because I feel like those are like, in my mind, the blue chips, and Moonbirds is sort of a blue chip. And in Future Proof, they had a lot of amazing announcements, but many of the announcements don't take effect for 6 months. So I think a lot of people are like, all right, well, I know that for 6 months things could be quiet and I might not miss anything. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they do some sort of a surprise drop. They didn't mention anything about Ravens and Future Proof. But I'm not like super. Like, I mean, honestly, like, so I went through 100 communities yesterday and joined 100 different Discords for this research I'm doing for Premint. And as I was going through these old great communities like Cool Cats and Dead Fellas and Alien Friends, like, there is no volume. Like, there's no money right now in the market. Like, I want to say Cool Cats had like, I think at one point they had like a 20 ETH floor, and
not that high, but up there.
Okay. Yeah, they were definitely the teens, right?
Yeah,
I think that was like 15, maybe. It was right around there.
They were like, I'm not throwing any shade on Cool Cats. It was just an example I remember from yesterday when I hopped to their Discord. But I was like, I think they're at like 2 now, and they're like, one day volume was maybe like 20 ETH or something. It was like what the floor, it felt like the floor was like a while back. And I was just, as I went further and further down, it just got like more and more bleak. And I mean, it's a great buying opportunity if these are projects you want to get into. But across the board, like, I'm not that surprised Moonbirds is at 10. I don't really see it falling much further than this, maybe into 8 or 9. But like, if you've always wanted Moonbird, it's a great time to buy, or at least put in some offers. I'm still super bullish on the whole. I mean, they just raised 50 million. I think this community is going to keep doing amazing things, but yeah, the whole market is hurting, and with that comes Moonbirds being down a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to get your take on just art. Do you collect much art? And if so, what do you look for when you're collecting digital art specifically?
Yeah, so let me start that conversation off with physical art.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
I'd say like 5 or 6 years ago, I was living in Austin, Texas, and I don't know why, but I randomly was like, I want a PlayStation. Like, I've never been a video gamer. I'm gonna go buy PlayStation. And I went to go buy PlayStation, and right next to the gaming store was an art gallery. And I went in the art gallery first, and I ended up leaving with a Gabe Leonard. And I don't know if you know Gabe Leonard, but he's an incredible artist. I don't know or think he's done anything in NFTs yet, but Gabe Leonard's just mind-blowing. So I loved the Gabe Leonard, loved it. It's like this insane, it's called Justice Ain't Blind. And it's like this insane, like Matrix style cowboy girl with like 2 giant revolvers in her hand. It's really cool. And then I ended up picking up a lot of like movie inspired art, and I just like that. So I've always like really enjoyed just buying art that I like without really any thought about appreciation. In NFT land, obviously that's totally different. And like you kind of, I feel like you go to Tezos kind of to buy art that you like and love. And good stuff here, the Grail stuff. But yeah, it's tough for me because like on one hand, I want to be collecting a lot of this stuff and I want to hold it. And I think a lot of it's going to do long term. But like here's the thing that challenged me. I see a lot of short-term opportunities that like if you have ETH, you can get in and out of things and make money. So I'm like very much a conflicted flipper and collector. There's things I love. And like I have William Mapan's anticyclones and I love those. And I'm never selling them. Like they're perfect. And I think that guy is going to the top and nothing's going to slow him down. And I think his stuff is just stunning. Right. And like, I want to hold those and I just want to hold them forever. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, that's like 20 ETH I could be making moves with that. I think like there are moves to be made. And I'm just like conflicted between collecting and flipping. But like, yeah. So what do I look for in terms of art? Like, do I love it is one important thing. Do I think I'm early is another. Like as much as I want to own a Fidenza, and I do think they do well in like 10 years, I think they're going to do amazing forever. Like, clearly, we're not early on Fidenzas anymore. Like everyone knows what a Fidenza is. So when I look at artists, especially like one-of-one artists or gen artists or all those things, I'm like, is the secret out on this guy yet? Or am I really late to the party? And if I'm late to the party, like I don't know if I want to get in no matter how much I love the thing, right? And the other thing I think about, and like this is a quote from somebody in Proof last night, was like, I'm investing in cockroaches right now. And what he meant by that is like, I'm investing in the things that like won't die. Like, and Derek Edwards said something very similar on 100 Proof. He was like, I'm looking for projects that have no external dependencies. So like, it doesn't matter what Frank says on Twitter for my punk to go. Like punks are like one of those things where it's like a punk is a punk, a squiggle is a squiggle. Like these are things that are going to do well. And like, they don't have to like do Squiggle Coin next week or a hoodie for like everyone to get excited. Whereas like Moonbirds sort of put themselves in that position where they have this nest, they have new rewards, they always have to be doing something. Whereas like Squiggles are going to be Squiggles in 10 years. They're iconic. Like there's just something about Squiggles that you can really nerd out on the rarity of Squiggles. And like, I think things like that make a ton of sense to collect for even like short, like in all terms of like even if I put it this way, if I buy a Squiggle and it goes down tomorrow, I'm not sad because I know in like 6 months or 5 years, it's going to be doing great. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's good advice. So, I mean, any chance we could squeeze some new artists out of you right now, like those secrets that you're talking about? Anyone new that you feel like is worth exploring?
So it's so funny you bring this up. I posted this tweet recently and I said, who's an artist with under 5,000 followers that you think isn't like getting enough sunshine, basically? And it was a good one. Like I don't have a big enough following to like I got like a good amount of artists. It's really interesting to read through those. I think I want to say K Dean said something really similar recently. There's a couple threads, and Kevin Rose said like, who should we have in Grails, right? Like that's a thread you should go find and look through because there's a ton of gold in that thread. And I can't remember a bunch of the names off the top of my head, but if you go find the Kevin Rose tweet where it's like, who should I have in Grails? It's hilarious because like a lot of the recommendations were in Grails, but more importantly, it's interesting because like there's just a lot of like uber talent in that thread. Like it's unbelievable. And like, sure, people are showing their bags here and there, but you also will go find like a one-of-one artist. I can't remember. There's one that has like these insane space stations. They look so cool. They're like these retro space stations. They're unbelievable. And of course, like that was when I was late to, like, I feel like they were already like 20 ETH and I was like, all right, I missed this. But I do think there are like artists coming out on Foundation every day that, and one-of-one art's really hard because like it's a pretty illiquid, end of this spectrum. But there are artists coming out that like, and a lot of those artists that like do their early stuff reward those early people in huge ways. Like Asif comes to mind on that. I feel like a lot of those like one-on-one people that like end up doing bigger drops, they reward their initial holders massively. But another one that like, again, I'm late to, this is one that I was like early to, but didn't buy. And I'm pissed about is there's an artist named Alien Queen.
Yeah, Wreck Guy.
What's that?
She's the co-founder of Wrecked Guy with OSF.
Oh, I didn't know she was a part of that. Okay. Well, anyways, I found her a while back, and that was a painful one because like I loved her art, and then I saw like Anonymous X bought a huge piece from her for like 20 ETH, and it's like another one that left the station. I know you asked like who are artists that are up and coming. I do think that Zenoisis guy is like very interesting, and they've been talking a lot about him in Proof, so I think there might be something there. Zenoyis. And speaking of mint passes, they have a mint pass. I'm assuming this is a guy, so I'm sorry to keep saying. I think they're completely anonymous.
You can just buy this for 0.06 right now?
I think those are additions.
Okay.
I think. So be a little careful because like
82 of these of this one.
Yeah. But he does, or they, I'll say they, because I don't know if it's a guy or woman, male or female, but they have a mint pass. There's like a ticket at the bottom and you can buy those and you'll get airdrop stuff. I've definitely seen proof collectors looking at this. I've seen this person mentioned a few times now and they still seem early. And if you like XCOPY stuff, it's sort of like, it's an interesting bet. That's one. There's another pass though. There's a few more of, I think the one on the left, it's a bit cheaper.
People hate ERC 1155. That's
the worst.
I'm worried about.
They're the 1155s are the worst.
Well, I mean, our NFT is an 1155, so I have firsthand experience of people being like, "What is this?" Like they just get so mad.
Well, and it doesn't even work. Like Blur is like that up and coming analytics platform doesn't support them yet. Or it's like anyways, 1155s are terrible. I agree. But yeah, I think there's like just interesting one-on-one artists out there. Like there's definitely interesting up and coming artists right now. I don't know if this is what you're looking for. Let me see. I have a list over here. Let me see what.
Yeah, and that's it's interesting when it comes to the one-of-one artists. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's probably the most like the lottery, right? If you're going out trying to flip one-of-one art, like you're basically, 9 times out of 10 or even more, you're not going to end up, with a good experience. But if you find the right artist, it's like, imagine scooping up a bunch of XCOPYs. The other challenge though, is that you had to wait like years, right? You would have had to have had conviction in XCOPY for 2 years if you bought his early work and not flipped it early on when it was like worth a little bit more. It just seems like a really, really tough thing to do, which is why I think your advice of just buying what you love. And then if you love it, just hold it and hope that they, grow with you. That's probably the only way to do it if you're going to try and play the one-on-one game.
It's the only way to get those home runs, man. Like CryptoPunk owners, like on the way up, they went from a free claim to, $700. I can imagine a bunch of people were like, holy shit, I got a free $700 and they sold the punk and then it goes to, $125,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have that story with a couple coins I got into early. It's horrifying.
Solana, were you early on Solana?
No, I was really early Doge.
Me too. I sold all my Doge right before it went up by like 1,000x.
Yeah.
So stupid. Literally, like a month
on
before.
Doge in 2016, and I sold like 98% of it, which is such a stupid number to sell. Like, why would you sell most of it? But anyways, the last like 2 or 5% paid for my wedding last year.
Wow.
Dang.
So, yeah. I mean, it was
so you had some Doge, baby. Wow.
It was 7 figures of Doge for sure. And it was a couple $100 purchase. It was like $100 to $200 purchase, something like that. So that was a crazy one, but like, there's a lot of those that like they did well. And I was like, oh, it's really hard. People are always like, oh, I wish I'd bought this 10 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, but you would have never held it through the first 10x or the second 10. You would never be buying these things at, a penny and holding forever. But I'm interested. I have a question for you guys. What is a piece of art? Like, I would love to know both of you, like, what are your Grail pieces? Like, is there something out there that you guys have always wanted to own that you don't have, that if you were given 1,000 ETH, you'd be like, oh, that's one thing I got to buy right now?
I don't have a necessarily one specific piece, but I would buy up, if you give me 1,000 ETH, I'd spend a ton of it on Memories of Qilin. I say it over and over. I think Emily Z's, like, it's just I just love it. So Memories of Qilin. So, I mean, I could tell you, if you looked at my activity in my wallet, I've been placing bids every day on, almost every day on Memories of Qilin, Anti-Cyclone. So William Upon, I totally agree with you there. I only own one Memories of Qilin piece. But I own 0 of these, and I've been putting bids on these Memories of Qilin and Meridians for the last 2 weeks, and nobody's biting. Like, I'm putting like slightly below floor or at floor for some of the pieces that are listed a little bit higher. So I'm trying to get a piece that I actually really like. And then I've done a couple collection offers that are low balls, so they haven't taken. But those are the 3 collections that I just really like. That, like, my goal is to get at least one of each of these for sure. I'd love a Fidenza, of course, but that's if you gave me 1,000 ETH, yeah, I'd scoop one of those. But with limited supply, I'm not gonna go out and buy a Fidenza right now. That'd be my entire stack. So these I think are awesome.
As an investment, I would just buy a bunch of crypto punks.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
It would just be punks.
Yeah, but no, like,
it was like... Go ahead, Noochie.
Screw the investment side of it. Like, what would you buy if, like, what do you want? Like, what do you love? Do you love anything?
XCOPY.
Like, I know punks are like, okay, cool. Like a one-on-one.
I like punks too, though. I do like punks, but I think you got a little delay, Nucci. But I do like punks and go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about the delay. I was just I thought you were saying like most people say punks because they're just a like no-brainer investment. Like I think punks are going to do well in 10 years and 20 years and 100 years. So I thought that's why you're saying punks. But if you actually love, like, I think punks are really cool, but I don't really feel drawn to like buying them just to like sport a punk. Whereas like XCOPY, I can totally like XCOPY's piece, Last Selfie, is probably like my favorite single piece of art in the whole space. But yeah, I can relate with that for sure.
Yeah, I love all XCOPY's stuff as well. And when I see a CryptoPunk on a wall, I actually think they look really good. Like they're so simple, but I think they look really good. But this Last Selfie piece, oh man, that one looked awesome, man. Yeah, anything XCOPY, I'd scoop up any of that. And then the generative stuff I really like. So
yeah, I think generative is obviously here to stay. This piece I just think is like, I'm imagining like an influencer taking a photo on a cliff and like the Grim Reaper's just like dropping down on him like, oh, this is it for you. But yeah, there's something about this one really gets me. I had two thoughts though. We were talking about William Mapan and how you wanted one of those. An interesting way to maybe get one on the cheap is I noticed I was looking through the lending platforms recently. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was NFT-Fi, but there were a bunch of anticyclones up for lending. And I know people who have recently, I know people who've recently, and it's like more or less you give like a third of the ETH of the floor value and you get like 30% APR over like a couple months or whatever. So it's an easy way to like make some ETH. And if they like thankfully default, you would pick up an anticyclone for like 2 or 3 ETH. But I know someone who got like a rare Moonbird that way. And if it's a collection you're already excited about, like anticyclones, like it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's genius. Actually, I didn't really pay attention to the fact that there was art being kind of lent out there for collateral as well. I thought it was mostly just PFPs, but knowing that, yeah, it's like, dude, it's like you're the bank, but you actually want the asset. You know what I mean? Instead of being like worried that you're going to have to deal with a house or whatever. It's like, no, I literally want this asset, so I'm stoked if you default. Is kind of the way you're looking at it.
Yeah. The one I was looking at, the guy had done a ton of loans, but like he defaulted on a few when it made sense to default, but he'd never defaulted on an anticyclone. So I was like, kind of
dude, they're diamond handed when it comes to the art, dude. I'm telling you, like people want to keep the art.
There's a new Gen Art podcast out, and their opening episode was all about anticyclones. And it was like, and they were basically talking about how they think this is like he's like the next thing. And I sort of agree with them. I think if you look at his early work on Tezos dragons, it's like, it's incredible. Like it's really incredible stuff. And that's actually like still sort of affordable just because it's on Tezos. I want to say they sell for like 4 or 5. I guess they're about the same as an anticyclone. So they're kind of pricey, but those are unbelievable. And then, we were talking a second ago, something I want to mention is like, we were talking about the edition stuff. And I did this analysis a while ago, and it's something you can totally do to find mispriced items. I basically looked at every XCOPY edition from like his 1 of 5. I think XCOPY has mastered editions, like objectively mastered editions, if you look at it. And like he has everything from like 1 of 5s all the way up to the 1 of 8,000, right? And like everything in between, 1 of 100, 1 of 250, 1 of 500. And if you look through it and you like plot it on a spreadsheet, you can kind of see this nice like curved line go up, right? In terms of like the price, or the curved line go down rather. But there are collections in here where it's like, okay, he's got like 10 1 of 100s, and one of them will be like totally mispriced. It'll be like way cheaper than the other 9. And I think there are like, you can identify stuff like that. I do get worried when an edition size gets too big, like Max Payne. I've never bought a Max Payne, even though the price is very reasonable. And the reason is like, I compare it to Cherniak's, the Ringer thing. I can't remember if it's called Ringers, but like they're basically 0.005. And the reason there's 20,000 of them, I do think you can hit like a critical mass where like there's just not a lot of upside. And I think Max Payne, unfortunately, like as much as I love the art, I think it falls in that category. I think a lot of people want to own XCOPY. It's like a perfect like entry piece for people, but there's 8,000 of them. And there's just like there's someone who's always gonna be selling or looking to unload this thing, and everyone's underwater on them who originally minted. Whereas like the only difference with this one is I think it was a free mint.
It's a free mint and it's an ERC 1155. And I don't think anybody thinks that he's going to burn it. And there's 24,000 of them.
And all of it went to charity. So it was like, I mentioned this before, but the one thing I like about Dead Ringers is that you could get a signed physical piece. And that edition number is much smaller. So that's what I did. And I put it on my wall and it looks awesome. I think Max Payne, half the people bought it because they're secretly hoping you can burn this for something in the future, which is like, it's just perfect. Either way, like XCOPY wins because if he doesn't do anything, he's like, I literally named it Max Payne. So like, what are you guys trying to do? And then if he does burn it, everybody's stoked, So it's interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. And he said, I mean, he teased like reveal coming. He said something about a reveal. And I think he was just toying with everyone because there was like a month where everyone was like, when is the reveal happening? And there was no reveal. But speaking of ringers, you own a ringer, right?
Yeah, just one. That was like my best purchase. I bought it for 4 ETH, and it's all thanks to DC Investor, the GOAT, man. He was just, yeah. I can only say so many good things about the man. But yeah,
incredible.
I diamond handed it for better or worse. It's like I'm still up whatever 10x, which is phenomenal. But like, that thing was worth like almost $500,000 in the peak of the mania. And that's like worth more than my entire collection is now, which is
crazy, dude.
I'm so stupid. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I'm so dumb, but like, hey, maybe it'll get back there. And the hard part is I only own one. So it's like, it also messes with your psychology because you want to own it, and you want to have it. And then, at what point does the money become worth it? So
yeah. I mean, I can definitely feel that pain with like, I think Proof was at one point in like the 140s at like 3,000 ETH. And if you talk to any Proof member, they're all like, oh, like I was thinking about my new pool. Like people are like very much envisioning these new lives that none of them have.
That's the top signal, by the way. Yeah. So that is for sure the case. Well, dude, I mean, we have gone over an hour. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the time, Nucci. Everybody go out and check out Nucci on Twitter. Check out his podcast. Maybe one day you'll get to see his face. It'd be a very special experience for you. But thanks again, man. Any final thoughts, Nucci, for people that are, I mean, you talked about trying to break into the space or just collecting in general. Any kind of final advice for people that are trying to learn about whether it's art or membership stuff or getting involved? What would you say to the people?
Yeah, I would say 3 things. Like, go find a community that you can be a part of. I think like your Nifty portal is like a no-brainer. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show. It's very reasonably priced. It has a great community. You guys put out amazing content. So like, I'm saying that in all seriousness. There are other communities just like Nifty portal. But like, I really do love you guys. And I think the content you put out is really high value. Like probably you guys are like best in biz in terms of like daily content. So like get into a community, meet people like
that guy.
Send DMs to people because most people are willing to chat and like find the smartest person in the room, shoot them a DM, see if they're willing to chat for 15 minutes, learn everything you can about them, and then like give more than you take is the most important thing. Like if you just are giving, it'll all come back like 2x, especially if you're like really, really kind. So just be nice and like give and everything will come back to you. But thank you guys. This was an honor. Like I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. And I'm excited to see the empire continue to grow. So thanks again for having me.
Thanks for coming, Nucci. Node Mode, another one in the books.
Boom. Thank you, everyone.